Have you ever felt stressed even when everything seems fine? Have you ever achieved a goal only to find yourself worrying about the next one? In today's fast-paced world, many people are searching for success, but very few are searching for peace. This is the story of a man who had everything he ever wanted except inner peace. And it is the story of how one wise monk changed his life forever. The successful man in a busy American city lived a successful businessman named James. James had everything most people dream of. He owned a large house. He drove expensive cars. He ran a successful company. People admired him. Friends envied him. To the outside world, James looked like a man who had won at life. But there was a problem. Despite all his success, James was constantly stressed. His mind never rested. When business was good, he worried about losing it. When business slowed down, he worried about the future. At night, he struggled to sleep. During the day, he constantly felt pressure. No matter how much success he achieved, he never felt peaceful. One evening, after another sleepless night, James looked out his office window and asked himself, "Why am I still unhappy?" Hearing about the monk a few days later, James heard about a wise monk who lived in a peaceful monastery deep in the mountains. People said the monk possessed great wisdom. Many travelers visited him seeking guidance. Some returned with a completely different outlook on life. Desperate for answers, James decided to visit. After a long journey, he finally arrived at the monastery. The place was quiet, birds sang softly in the trees, the wind moved gently through the leaves. For the first time in months, James felt a sense of calm. The first conversation, the monk welcomed him warmly. "What brings you here?" the monk asked. James sighed. "I have wealth, I have success, I have everything I once dreamed about, but I have no peace." Monk smiled gently. "Then perhaps you have been searching in the wrong place." James looked confused. "What do you mean?" The monk simply replied, "Stay with me for a few days, and you will understand." The cup of tea the next morning, the monk invited James for tea. As they sat together, the monk began pouring tea into James's cup. The cup filled. But the monk kept pouring. Soon tea spilled over the edges, it ran across the table. James quickly spoke. "The cup is already full." The monk smiled exactly. Then he pointed toward James. "Your mind is like this cup. It is overflowing with worries, fears, plans, regrets, and endless thoughts. How can peace enter when there is no space for it?" James sat silently. For the first time, he realized how crowded his mind had become. The lesson of the lake. Later that day, the monk took James to a nearby lake. The water was perfectly still. The surface reflected the mountains like a mirror. The monk picked up a stone and threw it into the water. Ripples spread across the lake. The reflection disappeared. "What happened?" asked the monk. "The water was disturbed," James replied. The monk nodded. "Your mind works the same way. When your mind is disturbed by worry, fear, and anger, you cannot see clearly. When your mind becomes calm, wisdom appears naturally." James watched the water carefully. The lesson was simple, yet powerful. Learning to live in the present. The following day, the monk gave James a simple task. "Today, do nothing except walk through the forest." James was surprised. "That's it." The monk nodded. "But pay attention to every step." As James walked, he noticed something unusual. His mind constantly wandered. Sometimes he worried about business. Sometimes he thought about future problems. Sometimes he remembered past mistakes. Very rarely was he focused on the present moment. That evening, he shared his discovery. The monk smiled. Most people live in three places. They regret the past, they fear the future, but they ignore the present. And the present is the only place where peace exists. The weight of worry. The next day, the monk handed James a heavy rock. "Carry this with you all day." James obeyed. At first, it seemed easy, but after several hours, his arm became tired. The rock felt heavier and heavier. Finally, he asked, "When can I put this down?" The monk smiled. "Whenever you choose." James immediately dropped the rock. Relief washed over him. The monk looked at him and said, "Worry works the same way. The longer you carry it, the heavier it becomes." Many people carry burdens that they could release at any moment. James understood immediately. For years he had been carrying unnecessary worries. The greatest discovery. As the days passed, James learned several important lessons. He learned to slow down. He learned to appreciate simple moments. Learned to focus on what he could control and let go of what he could not. Most importantly, he learned that peace does not come from wealth. It does not come from status. It does not come from possessions. Peace comes from within. It comes from mastering your thoughts. It comes from accepting the present moment. It comes from letting go of unnecessary fears. Returning home after a week, it was time for James to return home. Before leaving, he asked the monk one final question. What is the true secret of inner peace? The monk smiled. The secret is simple. Control your mind before it controls you. Live in the present. Be grateful for what you have. And remember that peace is not something you find. It is something you create. James thanked the monk and returned to the city. His business remained the same. His responsibilities remained the same. But his mind had changed. He worried less, he appreciated more. He lived more fully in the present. And for the first time in many years, he felt truly peaceful. Moral of the story: many people spend their entire lives searching for happiness in money, success, and possessions. But true peace cannot be bought. It can only be developed from within, when you let go of unnecessary worries, when you focus on the present moment, when you practice gratitude and self-control. You discover a treasure more valuable than any amount of money. Remember, a peaceful mind is the greatest wealth. The person who masters his thoughts masters his life. Thank you for watching Maurya Buddha Wisdom. Subscribe and join our journey of wisdom, peace, and personal growth through powerful stories and timeless life lessons.